Not even just good. I would call it very special for many reasons. Joining me today is the 1984 silver medalist in the Olympics at the track in Carson, California. He crossed the line second only to his teammate, another American, to get the silver medal in the match sprints. I would like to welcome to the show Mr. Nelson Vails.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do I get an applause? Is there applause in the background?
Oh, yeah. The crowd is going absolutely bananas right now because 37 years later, we're still talking about your amazing ride at the Olympics. I'm just excited to get a chance to talk to you today and talk things Olympics, talk all things Olympic virtual series, and just catch up with you. So let's just dive right in. How are you doing these days?
These days are great, especially with another Olympic year coming around. You know, we went through this past year, the whole world had to shut down, but we're moving forward and we're growing together again. And I'm excited for this new Olympic year and what we have in store.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want to skip all the way back to your childhood because I really want to paint this picture. So the listeners know exactly who you are and how you got to become one of the most prominent cyclists in Olympic history. So tell us where you're from and, you know, your upbringing and how you found the sport of cycling.
Well, for our listeners out there, I'm from Harlem, New York City, born and raised. I'm the 11th child of 10. Not that we were raised under one roof in a bedroom, sleeping on the floor or anything. I had a great childhood. We lived in a project housing. So there was many kids my age growing up. But just as any youth of a child living in a cul-de-sac or a regular neighborhood, every Christmas, all the kids had bicycles, boys and girls. And we would ride throughout the project housing. And Central Park was only 5 blocks away. So we had not only Central Park, but we had the project housing area to ride around in. And back then, in those days, it was pretty safe for a kid to adventure away from home, you know, a mile or two with their buddies.
And back then, was the bicycle your main thing that you did for fun? Did you play any other sports? I mean, just looking at your build, you look like you could have been an American football player.
Well, with my build, as a youth, growing up in Harlem, New York City, we played, and I use the word we, because I was so used to growing up with team sports. It was embedded from family play to be a team player that we did everything as kids. So when it was softball season, all the kids played softball, baseball, football season. So I was a youth growing up in Harlem, and I participated in all the different seasonal programs that the community centers would put together or any youth organizations would put together. My parents would always sign me up for all types of sporting events. So it wasn't only the bicycle, but it was everything fun, youth related as what the kids are trying to do today again.
Was in your household, was cycling ever talked about?
You know, that's a good question. My oldest brother, Ronnie, he was a cyclist, just below a professional cyclist, but I would like to say a continental rider, the words these days. He was a great cyclist in the New York City area, and he's the one that actually got me my first racing bike of a nice bicycle from your 5 speeds. And I began to learn how to harness an actual racing bike with 2 working handbrakes and gears. But that was all. This was between the ages 6 and 8. But then again, you know, as a young adult, you begin to grow up and you go through the trouble times, you know, of youth and poor friendships of growing up in Harlem and the hurdles you have to overcome to make the right turns, to be a good kid, you know. So by all means, for our listeners out there, I wasn't the golden child of a kid. You know, I mean, I got in trouble just like every other kid, and I got my spankings as well. But I grew up in a disciplined household too. So the sport of cycling was handed down to me from my brother. And it wasn't until probably 10 years later where I really started to ride the bicycle on a serious level, which was the age of 16, 17, 18.
So when your brother gifted you your first bicycle, one, did you ever think that you would become a professional cyclist? Two, was that like even on the radar at all? Like, usually a bicycle for a kid is just it's a way of freedom, a way to get out, way to do things on your own. When did this racing and this Olympic dream actually come to fruition for you?
Wow. Okay. As you mentioned from the beginning, as a youth growing up, cycling, professional, serious racing, never in my mind. I was a kid with a bicycle and the freedom to travel throughout the city streets of New York with my buddies. But I would like to say also that the racing or the more serious part of cycling didn't start till right around my teenage years of 16, 17. That was the junior category, kind of intermediate junior category back then. And then my brother enrolled me into a couple of bike races in Central Park. Saturday morning, 6 a.m., 1-2 laps around the park. And I was part of that youth program then, but never thought I would become a professional cyclist.
It's funny. I interview a lot of people, and some, just like yourself, have made it, to the highest of the sport, no matter what discipline. And you rarely come by those people who be like, yeah, from day one, I wanted to go to the Olympics, or day one, I wanted to, make it to the top of the sport. And it's kind of like this progression of you find something that you love to do, and you do it because you love it, and next thing you know, you're an Olympic hopeful. So you became a bike messenger, and in New York City, which, like, if you watch movies, bike messengers out of New York is like one of the coolest things to ever watch on TV. And then you're discovered. Is that correct? You're discovered by someone that said, you know what, you have the goods to do this. Walk us through that.
Good. I'm happy you brought that up, because let's go back to the discovery part. As you mentioned, being a professional cyclist, we'll take it from this point, Rasan. By my last year in high school, I knew I was going to become a professional cyclist. We'll stop there. By the last year, as a senior in high school, I knew I was going to be a professional cyclist. So now let's backtrack. Growing up, the messenger thing with Nelson Vails' Cinderella story came about from a gentleman by the name of Lenny Preheim, owner of Toga Bike Shop back then. So first, Nelson Vails was part of the CRCA club in Central Park that still exists today. I was a club member, racing Saturday mornings in Prospect Park, Central Park, began the youth program and showed promise in these little Saturday, Sunday morning races, to where I was invited to ride on a team per se, which was Toga Bike Shop. Now this back then was the city team. They had matching jerseys, bikes, car, and, being part of this team, you dress like a team player, you felt like a team player, and you race like a professional. And this was all in the span of 18 years, 19 years old, moving into 20s. Mm-hmm. So from then, Lenny Preheim suggested to do this messenger work as training on the bicycle to learn how to pedal. So for my listeners smiling out there, we started out with the fixed gear. It wasn't the safest thing.
So explain, for those who may not know, explain what a fixed gear bicycle is.
Fixed gear bicycle, for our listeners out there, is a direct drive bicycle. When the wheels go around, the pedals go around. There's no brakes, or you can put a working handbrake front and rear to help you slow down. But we started out with that, and that was because we were training my legs how to pedal. There's also
no coasting.
There is no coasting for our listeners. That's right. So it's a direct drive bicycle with no coasting. The safe way to ride a fixed gear is to have at least a front working handbrake to help you slow down.
Yeah.
So moving forward from that, we moved on from the messenger. We graduated from a fixed gear to a single speed with two working handbrakes. Now, The single speed with 2 working handbrakes became about because now I was riding a 52-21. That's the gears people want to know. 52-21, and that was going to train my legs how to pedal smoother and nicer, but still have the safety of coasting. But in order to go faster, I had to pedal faster. Knees in, pedal round, pedal smooth. I'll repeat that for our listeners. Knees in, pedal round, pedal smooth. If it's not smooth, you go to a bigger gear until you can smooth it out with a smaller gear. But those are the training things mentally that I didn't know that was instilled in me that helped me to excel to the Olympic Games. Messenger, you say? I became one of the best messengers New York City ever developed because of my acute sense of awareness of traffic sense, the safety part of the bicycle, which was always first, and delivering the packages to make money because I was just this kid making hundreds of dollars daily. I was 60 cents on every dollar I made as a messenger. That's how good I was. I graduated from 40 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar the messenger company would pay to 60 cents. And only a handful of the top messengers that delivered on time consistency made that money. And plus I worked on rainy days.
Oh, yeah. So now you've gone all through bike messengers. You're making 60 cents on a dollar, which it sounds like you're more like a majority owner of every package that you delivered. So that's definitely good money. And then you transition to bike racing. I really want to tap into like when this Olympic dream like just came upon you and you made that turn and said, you know what, I can do this. The Olympics are coming up. I could make it to the 1984 Olympics. When did that happen?
This is, as you speak, and for our listeners, as you speak about this, I'm smiling that you can't see the big smile on my face of how this all came about. So from the messenger days and racing, criteriums, track racing, I was introduced to the velodrome at Casina. 1979, introduced to the velodrome at Casina. I raced every event, raced my heart out as a youth. Lenny put me in points race pursuits. We learned that sprinting was best for me. We learned that I was a sprinter. We tried all the events as a kid. You do everything. Sprinting was easy. It was explosive, fast event. And you had to be smart, strong, and fast in order to make it all work. So we said, okay, you're going to be a sprinter. Fast forward, I became New York State sprint champion and went to the national championships in San Diego, California in 1980. Fall of 1980, I was introduced to a national level of cycling. I was winning races and did not know what I was doing.
Yeah.
3 rounds, beat all the top riders because they put the strong link against the weak link. Mm-hmm. And just like you see in tennis, some superstar comes in and some nobody comes in and plays, beats them, eliminate them. I was that guy. I showed up, no one knew who I was. I took off, sprinted, fastest lap times. Eddie B approached me, and if everyone don't know who Eddie B is, look him up. Eddie B approached me and says, hey, we think you're pretty good. We would like to invite you to our camp, our winter training camp. Not knowing it was a national team camp, but we wanted to invite you to a camp. And that's when I really started seriously messengering because I was saving my money to go learn how to race my bicycle in Colorado Springs at this training camp in 1981.
So that's actually amazing. You get introduced to track cycling in 79. There's an Olympic year coming up. And then the following Olympics, you're an Olympian. It doesn't happen that fast for many people.
It doesn't. And this was the year that the team didn't go. So mind you had a lot of top cyclists. And I was the baby of this national team group with your Greg LeMonds and your Stentners, your Howards. And so I was invited to this winter training camp to learn how to race my bicycle. And that's where the steps came, because from 1981, you had a national team training camp, which became the development camp for the Olympic team. So by 1982, I was part of the Olympic development team. So they said, you and you alone, we're going to train you how to do this event. Let's see how it goes. And that's when the national team ADB assigned Carl Loosenkamp to be my coach, along with him coaching other athletes. But then this is where the parenting comes in, Hassan. You know, I was already a father at the age of 16, left home, left my family to go pursue a dream that I didn't even want to be part of. I was just a kid on a bicycle having fun. But like I said, I come back to what I said before earlier. Right out of high school, I knew I was going to be a professional cyclist. My family sent me to Colorado Springs to learn to race my bike because I was that kid that was going to be good someday. Mm-hmm. And there you have it.
Yeah, definitely having a good base where you lay your head is extremely important. And I know that a lot of people sometimes take that for granted because that's a normal life for a lot of people, but it's also an abnormal life for even more people. So I'm a testament of that, you know, having mom and dad or guardians that help you, you know, make the right decisions. You're not going to always make the right decisions because you're young and you're going through the motions of life, but it's important that you have that person behind you that's helping you kind of navigate those waters.
You know, I want to interrupt you there real quick. You know,
go ahead.
as you mentioned for our listeners, the parenting and people around you to help you navigate. You know, I learned to excel because I was never really yelled at. I didn't take yelling, you know, scolding too well as a learning lesson. So my parents would talk to me. The coach would talk to me. I won my first race and we would talk on the side about how I won that so that I can do it again. Mm-hmm. You know, when I lost the race, it wasn't like, why didn't you do this and didn't do that? It's like, let's learn from this so that we don't make this mistake again. Like you mentioned, you know, growing up as a youth, a lot of wrong turns, but then there's those right turns and those people guiding you. And that's where I would like to share my story to the youth out there today of following that dark tunnel to that light. But you have to work in order to make it work.
Oh, yeah. So before the Olympics, did you ever make it out to Los Angeles, or was that your first trip to the West Coast?
No, that is incorrect. The West Coast, San Diego is my
Oh, wait a second. You raced San Diego. That's right. Yeah. That's definitely West.
The Olympic Velodrome was developed in 82, so it was open for racing in 1983.
Okay.
And they had the Olympic development events. They started testing the youth events. They had an international event there at the Olympic Velodrome. They had the nationals at the Olympic Velodrome. So my trip to LA was far few in between, from a kid from Harlem being a permanent resident, becoming a permanent resident at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. That's about as far as from home as I received myself.
Yeah. And so if you don't mind, what was the reaction when you got the word that, hey, you've been selected for the 84 Olympics? How did that go down? What did they do? They just call you over and be like, hey, we're going to take you to LA, you know, in the summer to do this sport for the Olympics? Or is it like the big ceremony? You know, what happens?
Okay, for everyone else out there, no, it doesn't happen overnight like this. From 1982 and the year of 1983, we lived and raced in Europe, mostly in Eastern European bloc countries, Russia, Czechoslovakia. Our sprint national team all summer long in 83 and 84 lived and raced in Europe. So all these guys from that world-class era, we're a bunch of kids all racing in many world championships in some little city in Czechoslovakia or in Poland. And this was when the Cold War was going on and the wall was up and we were it was USA versus Russia, basically, is what it was. And I was sent as a youth from Harlem to go compete in these events to develop my skills. Now, people think Olympic team. Let me get this straight for those listeners. You don't train 4 years for the Olympics. You train 4 years to make the Olympic team. You can't go to the Olympics if you don't make the team. Now, the team is so hard. It's so hard to make the team in the U.S. It's easy to win a medal. Let's backtrack. It's so hard to make the team. It's easy to win a medal. Now, that comes from training because of the stress of making a team. Now, you mentioned how did someone go to the Olympics? It was a whole stair steps of development to the Olympic trials. So learning myself in 1983, I learned how to eat, sleep, and race my bicycle all year long to know that I have a chance to be part of the Olympic team. Don't know whether I'm going to be on the Olympic team because there's 3 other guys. Only one was going. Remember that. The boycott didn't happen until way later. So there was 4 people competing for 1 spot. And Gorski was the top dog at the time, and I was racing against Scott Berryman and Les Barczewski for 2nd place to be the 2nd guy on a team or alternate. So that's where that came about. So we didn't learn that Olympic development team serious, to who's going to be on the short list until 1983. So 1983 year was the year that I knew that there was a chance that I can make the Olympic team by beating Mark Gorski. Only beating Mark Gorski to the top. And so by him being top dog, it helped his training to stay on top, and it helped me to excel to get to that level.
So when you say beat him, did you have to beat him at nationals, or was this off of time based on your training camps?
The rule at that time was if you win, you go. Like any Olympic trial.
Win your nationals.
Basically, if you win, you go. So you had to be on for that event to make the team. And of course, the outcome was I got 2nd at the Olympic trials, and then the announcement that 2 people were going to the Olympics during that same week. So Mark and I turned to each other like, the boycott is happening now. 2 people per country is going to be on the team. And we looked at each other like, we're on the Olympic team.
See, I've never been to Olympics, so in my head, I'm thinking, they have this ceremonial music, and the U.S. national teams brings out roses, and there's this nice letter. There's none of that.
No, we had the Olympic trials, and shortly after the Olympic trials, they announced the boycott. The Russians were not coming, and that there were 2 people per country allowed to go.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that was it.
That was it.
So let's keep trekking forward. So now, you're on the Olympic team. The Summer Games are coming up, and you're in LA. Everybody is focused on California at this moment. The Olympics is a time of the year that I think a lot of people are inspired. Do you remember? This is one question I was thinking about. Do you remember the fanfare song for the '84 Olympics? Because I remember the 2000 Olympics, right? That song is constantly in my head. That's
the only song I know.
They still play that song?
That's the Athens song, like the arrival to the stadium or something. Like you arrived.
When you hear that, does it do anything for you?
For me, for me personally, it's that smile that in the kindest way, I've made history. I'm part of living history. I have to get it in my thick head that not many people go to the Olympics, let alone win a medal. Yep. For me, it appeared to be normal because being raised as an overachiever in Harlem, per se. So our listeners, I want you to smile. If you were growing up with Nelson Vails in Harlem and we rode bikes all throughout the city and we grew up and grew apart, and then you hear Nelson Vails is going to the Olympics, it's like, that's normal. He's going to win a medal. So it was pretty normal for me to go to the Olympics, and it's pretty normal for me to win a medal of any kind. That's the mentality that I had growing up in Harlem of you can do it kind of thing. And the training and the drive led me to being so afraid to lose. How's that? I was so afraid to lose that I would let everyone down that I'd train my ass off.
People find motivation in totally different ways, and I could appreciate that.
I want to bring this up also real quick. When we talk about the Olympics, every time I approach the start line, I was so damn nervous. It's like, it's so normal to be nervous because if you go there at that level, if you went there confident, you already lost the race. I was so nervous that the clock was ticking as far as what I'm going to do every half a pedal stroke. It's that computer running through your mind on what's he going to do? What am I going to do? Because there's only two of you on the track and only one winner is going to come out. And that's where I accelerated because I was so nervous and so afraid to lose that I was thinking so quickly that anything they did, I was going to react to get across the line first.
Yeah, did Mark Whitehead coach you at any point?
That's another thing. Thank you for bringing up our buddy Mark Whitehead.
He told me, he said, "You're good, Bahati, but you need to know how good you're not. And when you know how good you're not, you would work on what you're not good at." And I always remember that, focus on how good you're not.
That's good.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, Go ahead.
Mark Whitehead and I was roommates throughout the Olympic trials, and we were together when we learned that we were both part of the Olympic team and we were going to sign the documents the next day. Mark Whitehead and I was together side by side when we learned that we were part of the Olympic team and that we had to sign some documents for the IOC that we were going to LA. Mark Whitehead and I shared that moment together of learning that we were part of the Olympic team and where we're going. Not knowing we were winning, but we were on the Olympic team.
So you end up racing, you go through all these rounds of the sprints. You have to qualify, first of all, with a 200-meter sprint. They clock your time, and then they match you up, against the fastest rider goes against the second, the slowest rider, and so forth and so on if you make the split. And then you go through these rounds, and you're winning, of course, because you make it to the final round. And then you have to race your teammate for the gold medal. What was going through your head then? Like, it's not only is your buddy, but he's your friend, he's a teammate, and for sure, an win championship. You guys are going for.
Let's take you back. Battle the next day before the semi to the final round. It was the day before that Mark Whitehead and I had to battle. He battled against the Japanese guy, and I battled against the top seed French guy. We both won our rides 2 rides straight. That's the drum. Next for the final. I was relieved. The U.S. team was basically, we were all gelling in our camp because the pursuiters were winning. We had a winning camp. We had a winning thing was gelling together. And Gorski and I talked in sleep much the evening before, and I definitely didn't sleep much that evening. I was at a hamburger place in Long Beach, famous hamburger place in Long Beach, around midnight, eating a burger and fries with my coach, Carlos' wife, Rita, at the time. And we were going over different plans on how to ride the ride. The first ride, the second ride, the third ride. Basically, it's like football coach, training the offense on how to do this huddle. Come out with a play with no time on the clock.
Yeah.
Basketball, same thing. No time on the clock. Who's going to get the ball? Who's going to shoot it? And figuring out how we were going to win this next ride. And we didn't have to race until 3 o'clock the next afternoon, so we were all good to go.
Yeah.
But to that ride, and for since no, I would not change a thing. We did everything the plan did not work.
So get on the podium. You made history at that moment. Did it change at all? What happened post Olympics? Outside looking in, it's like if sometimes it feels like that Olympic, their whole world changes for the better. Advertisement. They started doing all these tours and going to different places all across the country and the world. What did your life change after Olympics?
Right off the podium in the first interview, it was overnight success. Seriously, I don't know if it happened to many other Olympians, but for my sport, 37 minutes of live TV time because of my and I was a kid bike. So that was the Cinderella Rudy story of the underdog. Literally overnight success. So from there, the Team USA sponsors put a handful of us together at media training. And of course, I excelled in that because I wanted to better myself. knowing that I was racing my bike. So the Olympics was a race. The next 3 days later, I left for the Nationals. Go win national championships in Pennsylvania. Then I came back for closing ceremonies. People don't know about that.
Really? So you left the Olympics after getting silver medal, Trexler down, raced the Nationals, and then came back to LA for the closing ceremony. Yeah, you were a rock star. Man.
Yeah, I went home for homecoming in New York City, took my medal to Trexler, where the development all began. T-Town is where I had that whole, let's say, brought my medal back to T-Town to share that with everyone, because it was, it's not how I got here, it's how we got here. And T-Town has developed a lot of world champions and a lot of Olympians.
Yep, absolutely.
And I was one of the first on that list to help bring that to fruition for the youth today.
So as things go on and things change, you know, we evolve as a human species, we evolve on Earth. So many things change. And now, you know, we're riding virtually. And we have this Olympic virtual series, you know, 37 years after you stood on the podium in LA with a silver medal. This kid from New York is an Olympian, not only an Olympian, but an Olympic medalist. What is your take on the Olympic virtual series, knowing that so many years later, talking, you know, 3.5 decades later, you have this Olympic virtual series, and people can ride with you, and your story, you can ride with them virtually and inspire them to you know, do the same thing you did, and encourage them to never give up and follow dreams. What do you think about the Olympic virtual series?
Well, with the virtual series becoming a fruition, I just, you know, it almost brings tears to my eyes to see how one can still stay relevant in a sport that he loved and shared. But for me, as an Olympian, as a medalist, to be able to share my story with others, take people on a journey virtually with others on how I trained, what I did, the preparation before as far as pedaling, that is the greatest thing now, because, you know, it'd be nice if people can follow me around, or I had an entourage of cyclists to follow me. But now with the virtual series, people at home can actually get on their bicycles and ride and go through the workout and get the fitness that they like to get, you know, on their fitness level. They can get some fitness out of following my virtual program. One of the
goals of the Olympic virtual series is to have more visibility, right? Because it's a bigger net that you can cast with the virtual series, and it's really all about inspiring the youth. You talk a lot about the youth and how you grew up as a youth and how you inspire the youth today. What was your inspiration as a child to actually get into the sport? I know we touched on it a little bit, but if you can just pinpoint that inspiration, because that's what the Olympic virtual series is about. It's about inspiring people. What was that inspiration that you had? If you can say that one thing that inspired you.
I know exactly. It was my brothers and sisters that was the inspiration, because I was the baby brother, and, you know, they push me in a direction so that I don't make the same mistakes as they did. How's that? People before me. So that was my inspiration, was the co-parenting of my older brothers and sisters to inspire me to do this, which was the bicycle. It's like, Nelson, you can do this. It's easy for you. You're natural at it. And of course, I'm just a youth. But then it began to grow on you, and you take advantage of that opportunity. I was Harry Potter with a magic wand fresh out of the box. And once I learned how to use that magic wand, I was fearless.
Do you think, being that so many things have changed, right, since you stepped on the podium in '84, do you think the way the youth are inspired today have changed from when you were inspired? Like, do we need to dangle other carrots in front of them to get them inspired, or do you think it still could stem from the organic way of mom, dad, brother, sister, family, you know, good role models?
The quick answer is yes, but the explanation to that is the inspiration is coming from the parenting and the guidance counselor of that youth, to instill, not scold, but instill that the opportunity of being fun. For me, I was introduced to every event or any sport or anything I did as fun. You should try it. Let's see if you like it. If you don't like it, we try something else. So for the parents and the guidance people out there, you want your kid, you want to live vicariously through the bicycle and through your kid. My parents didn't have that opportunity, but they instilled it into me to go have fun. If you don't like it, we'll do something else. Yeah. So I wasn't pressured. And I'd like to tell the listeners out there, don't pressure that kid. The kid may be a book smart business owner instead and like to ride his bike, but they don't want to race the bike. They want to own a team. Things like that. So that's where the inspiration differs for that young boy or girl who could be good someday, but only would like to just have fun.
Man, I tell people all the time, when I grew up racing, I had 4 or 5 kids whose parents were just like over the top, putting so much pressure on them. Meanwhile, my household, my parents just supported me, If I wanted to go to the race, as long as I was prepared, they got me to the race and took care of that part of it. The things that I couldn't take care of, like paying my entry fee or driving myself to the race. And, 20-something years later, I'm still in the sport, and those kids that were pressured, as soon as they turned 18, 19, they completely fell out of sport. So I 100% hands down agree with you with that. And that's advice I've given multiple parents that have kids in the sport, not just cycling, but just sports in general. And with my own kids, I'm the same way. I kind of let them go through their own growing pains when it comes to sports. If they want it, they'll get it. But I like I tell them all the time, I can't want it more than you. And that's one of the things I just let them learn. So it's one of those things. We're touching on the Olympic Virtual Series because cycling has really transcended a lot of things, and with the Olympic Virtual Series, it's really this opportunity to bring more people into the sport, be more inclusive. Inclusivity is like one of the things that the Olympic Virtual Series is hoping to raise awareness, and get just more people into the sport. And with having an Olympic Virtual Series, as you know, you get on this platform and you can just ride with so many people. Do you think this initiative is something worthy? Do you think that we continue to push this Olympic Virtual Series for bringing people together?
This platform that the team at Zwift built for this virtual series, it's one of those, I wish that I had it back in the day to probably become that much more. I would like to say the training platform, the whole fitness game of the entity of the platform is just great. And I hope to my living days that I can see school programs that have gyms now have a set of bicycles with the Avatar series set up as a PE class to where the kids get to ride virtually for 30 minutes. They don't have to go for an hour, 30, 20 minutes, and they get to ride in their group and they pedal. The boys and girls can all stay together, and it's inspirational, I think, for the kids to look left and right to themselves, see themselves as an avatar on the screen and pedal and have fun and communicate, and then they take it out on the road for the freedom part of it.
Yeah, and what I like most is just seeing all the different country flags, right? Yeah. You're in this virtual world, and you just see so many people from all over the world that's sharing something very common, right? We're all the same at this point. And I think that's one of the coolest things about the Olympic Virtual Series is like, you get to ride with people like yourself, and other Olympians and people that have paved the way. But it's just so inspirational, for me at least, seeing all the different people from around the world sharing this moment together.
I would like to add to that, this with the series and bringing people together, as you mentioned, just riding on my Zwift at midnight for 20 minutes because I, restless. It's like you get to talk to people. I talk to buddies I race with in Australia,
Yeah.
who, it's not a good day to be outside, and they're pedaling around. Nelson, is that you? And it's like, oh, wow. Then you talk on other platforms, social media later, but you get to meet. And I had so many reunions just from pedaling my bike on the series, on the system, on the Swift system for 20, 30 minutes for some indoor exercise.
Yeah, I agree. So it's been a very long time, like I mentioned earlier, over 3 decades, 3.5 decades that you made history. At any point, like in your wildest dreams, did you ever think that you have this Olympic virtual series, that the Olympic virtual series will be part of the Olympic Games? I mean, I'm not an Olympian, but I would have never thought that.
To me, never in my wildest dreams. I wake up every day willing and able to share my story with others, to inspire others. And for me to share my story and my dream virtually with others around the world is one of the greatest gifts that I could ever be presented. For my legacy and the history, to keep it going for the next generation in this Olympic Series platform. I'm just so happy that, and an honor to be able to share with everyone around the world. It's just, I look forward to everyone joining me and all of us, in a positive way, participating in this series.
Well, I think you already know this, Nelson, but I'm a huge fan. Every time I speak about cycling and people who don't know much about even black people in cycling, I always bring up Major Taylor and yourself. And hopefully those 2 names can grow more than Major Taylor and Nelson. And I think it's important that we continue to tell your story. I think it was destined that you made the Olympics, and also this connection with the Olympic Virtual Series, because as you just mentioned, you sharing your story is going to inspire many, right? And I think now that we have this Olympic Virtual Series, like I said, you get to now cast this wider net and catch even more attention of the youth and of people who may have thought, they could never get this close to an Olympian or never have an opportunity to talk to Nelson and other Olympians that we have on the platform during this virtual series. So, yeah, I like I said, man, I truly respect you. I love talking to you and learning things. I've talked to you plenty of times, but even today I learned more about you. And I just thank you for your time. And I'm looking forward to riding with you online in Olympic Virtual Series. Take it easy on me. I know you still got those big watts coming out of those sprint legs.
And watts. I have a copious amount of watts because I dialed in my weight on it, so everything is right. And when I step on my event series toy, I like to say, my new bicycle on my stationary machinery, I'll call it like that. I'm good. I was testing it out already, so everything is good, ready to go. So whenever anyone wants to launch and ride with me, I'm open and willing. We're ready.
Awesome. Love talking to you, Nelson. Appreciate your time today. And like I said, looking forward to riding with you online during the Olympic Virtual Series. So thanks again, Mr. Nelson Vails. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone, and all our listeners out there. I look forward to riding with you as well. So stay tuned for more news on this platform, and we're gonna make history. Let's continue to make history. Let's stay fit and healthy, and live to see another day for our youth in the future.
And like the legend said himself, let's stay fit, stay healthy, and I appreciate everyone for listening to the podcast. This is Rassam Bahati, and I will talk to you later.
Nice. Right on.